Hi friends and welcome. My name is Polly and today we have a brief tutorial on downward facing dog and the transition from downward facing dog to the front of the mat in sun salutations. My dog Ruben is going to help us out. So let's take a look at downward facing dog at first. Now, for those of us in the 500 Sun Salutations in September challenge, this is a pose that we return to a lot. So we want to have a solid foundation. And I want to make sure that you're getting the benefits of downward facing dog, which include toning the arm and shoulder muscles, opening the chest, and getting a stretch through the muscles at the back of the legs, the hamstrings and the calves. And my favorite benefit is that it just gives you a break. You get a chance to take a breath. So I'd like today to go through the main areas and look at healthy alignment principles. So those include the hands, the shoulders, and the pelvis. Let's go ahead and start in all fours. So we always want to start in downward facing dog with a strong hand foundation. Anything we're building, foundation is utmost important. So that could be a yoga pose, it could be a building, it could be peace. In this case, we're going to start with our fingers spread wide and even, and wrist creases are more or less parallel to the front of the mat. Press down actively through the perimeter of your palm, especially the inside of the index finger and thumbs. And actively grip the mat with your finger pads, like you're palming a basketball or you're like a gecko climbing up a window. And then from here, draw energetically the forearms into the midline. So the hands don't move, but the forearms move towards the middle of the mat. And hopefully these actions fire up the muscles in the forearm and also will protect your wrist from issues. One common pitfall I see in hand foundation is what I call like cupcake hands, like you're trying to cover up a cupcake. You don't want anyone to get it. The fingers are kind of close together and rounded, and this is really not doing too much to keep your wrists happy. So come back to your solid foundation, fingers spread wide and even, pressing actively down through the fingertips. And now let's take a look at solid shoulder alignment. Maintain the foundation in your hand, and now look down between the thumbs. Put a soft bend in your elbows, and float your shoulders up to your ears. So lift from the hip to the armpit to lengthen through the side of your body. From here, melt your heart towards the mat and soften in the upper back. Keep the shoulders lifted and straighten the arms. Notice that your belly might be drooping and hug the lower ribs in and scoop the belly up to protect the lower back. Press actively down through your arms and into your hands. Tuck the toes and glide the hips up and back. Now elongate through the spine. Keep the shoulders lifted and press from the heart down through the arms and hands. Now, a pitfall or a problem I see with shoulder alignment is when you may hear teachers say something like, press the chest through the arms. And what happens is the shoulders drop down really low and hyperextend. This is not so good. So come back to floating the armpits, melting the heart, keep the shoulders lifted, and then press the chest and open the chest through. So shoulders stay lifted, but the heart still gets the opening. Nice. Okay, let's look at what's going on in the pelvis. The misalignment here is to be like maybe choked up in the pose and you're trying to get your heels down to the mat and you're really tucked under. And this isn't doing anything to stretch the back of the legs. So, first and foremost, walk your feet back to find a nice long downward dog. So, you're nice and stretched out. And from here, I suggest bending the knees quite a bit. And now notice I'm still a bit tucked under. So, what I'm going to do is lift the sitting bones to get a curve in the lower back. So I'll do that again. I'm going to lift the sitting bones, draw the lower ribs in, keep the sitting bones lifting, and then try out straightening one leg and then the other. Now you may feel a little bit stiff here. So on an inhale, take a deep breath in. And then on an exhale, press from the heart out through the arms and hands. And then from the heart, keep lifting through the hips. And then press from the pelvis down through the back of the feet. And here we are in our downward facing dog. Now to transition to the front of the mat, like we do in sun salutations, you have a few options. The first one is to walk to the front of the mat. And this is one, I love this one. I come up onto my tippy toes and I take a real slow walk. I take my time. Shift my weight to the left foot, pick up the right, and I suck the leg into the hip socket. From there, I can take a little step forward. I can stay up on my tippies or come down. Shift the weight to the right foot, suck the femur bone, the leg bone, into the hip socket, and then send the foot forward. And continue on this slow walk. I may come up to my finger pads or tippy toes until I come to the front of the mat. Nice. Second option is the lunge. So we come back to our nice long downward facing dog. And the key to the lunge is to keep the hips lifting as high as you can and to use momentum to shift the weight forward. So what we do is, well, I like to start by stepping in a couple inches to give myself a head start. And then lift through the hips, pick up at the knee, shift the weight forward, and come into your low lunge. Now, if you don't quite make it, no problem. Reach down and step the foot forward. From here, again, shift the weight, lift the hips, and step forward. Blocks under hands work great here. So if the lunge forward, we'll show it again. If the lunge forward is a goal of yours, you'll want some really warmed up hamstrings and strength in the hip flexors. To stretch the hamstrings, you want to do forward folds, either standing like this or seated on a daily basis. And to strengthen the hip flexors, boat pose or modified boat pose is a great one. You can even do some half boats to full boats. Cool. Now the third option is the jump forward, which can be pretty darn fun. So once again, you're in your nice long, solidly aligned downward facing dog. And I recommend stepping in to give yourself a head start. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale and bend the knees. Lift the hips and step forward. Let's try that again. It's just fun. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, bend the knees. And at the bottom of the exhale, spring forward and fold inside. So wherever you are in the process of downward facing dog or the transition from down dog to the front of the mat, please remember that it's a practice, step by step. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for being here. In community, namaste.